We are back, ready to talk about more about quadratic equations. So one thing that I want to go ahead and talk about is the x-intercept again. Remember, the x-intercept is where the line crosses the x-axis, and it's usually in the form x comma 0. So whenever we're trying to find our x-intercept, we have to make sure that we set y equals 0, and that's only if it's necessary. So looking over here, if we're taking a look at this example graph, well, we can see where the line crosses the x-axis. It's going to cross the x-axis twice, one over here and one over here. And these are what we call the x-intercepts. And one thing that I want to note as well is that this, again, I mentioned this in class, this is what we're going to be dealing with for the rest of the semester. We are going to be dealing with what we call the quadratic function, and this is what we call a parabola. And a quadratic function is a polynomial with a degree of 2. So notice that I've been saying ax squared plus bx plus c so many times because our degree is usually 2. So looking at number 1, first off, the question says, use the graph to solve the equation. That means just to look at the functions of 0. Remember, the 0 is just the x-intercept, okay? So here we have x squared minus x minus 2 is equal to 0. And we're trying to figure out what values are my zeros. So there's 1 over here and 1 over here. So looking at this point is -1 comma 0, and it's in the form x comma 0. This point over here is in the form x comma 0, and that x is just what, 2 comma 0. So therefore our x or our zeros is our x is equal to -1 and x is equal to 2. And those are our answers. Okay. Number 2, taking a look at this, we have -2x squared plus 4x minus 2, and without having to factor and set it equal to 0, all we're doing, again, is just looking at the graph where the line crosses the x-axis, and we can see that it crosses over here. And we can see that it's at x equals 1, so this is our answer. And what I want you to notice is we have a parabola that's going up, is facing up, and the other one is facing down. I want you to keep note of it. Why are they so different? I want you to take a look at number 1 and 2 and think about that for a bit. So pause and just think about why that's the case. Okay? And then number 3, we have 1/4 x squared plus 1. So does the line cross the x-axis at all? Well, we can see that it's a little above the x-axis. So no, it does not have a 0, and we say that that is no solution. No solution, okay? So, okay, let's take a look at number 1 and 2 again. Notice that all the equations above problems are in standard form. Yes, ax squared plus bx plus c, and we can see that here. This is in the form ax squared plus bx plus c, and then we can see that for the rest of them. And it's okay to have a -a this time. When we're dealing with linear equations and we're trying to get that in the standard form, of course, we need to make sure that negative goes away and make that look nicer. But here, it's totally fine if we have a negative coefficient. Okay, back to number 1 and number 2. The reason why that this one is facing up is because our coefficient is positive. So if you have that in standard form, so in standard form, right, if your a value is positive, then it's going to face up. If your a value is negative, then it's going to face down. So do you see how this is positive and it's going up, and do you see how this is negative, it's going down? That's why, okay? So that's just something that I want you to keep note of as well. Okay, let's take a look at number 4 and 5. It says, practice writing the following equations in standard form. Describe if the parabola will point up or down. So we have 4x squared is equal to 12. If we're taking a look at above, you notice that how we have everything on the left side and a 0 on the right side, right? So we need to do the same thing here. And we see there's a 12, so I'm going to subtract both sides by 12. And then we're left with 4x12. I'm sorry, not 4x12. 4x squared minus 12 is equal to 0. And this is already, or this is now in standard form. Okay. Again, it has to be in the form ax squared plus bx plus c. I know that we don't see a bx anywhere, so we can just pretend to say that it's 4x squared plus 0x minus 12, which is basically that, okay? Number 5, so we see a 1 on the right side. I'm going to go ahead and subtract both sides by 1, so I'm left with 2x minus x squared minus 1, but this is not in order. So I need to rearrange this. I want to make sure that I have this, I have this x squared in the front, and there's a negative there. So I need to rewrite this and say, okay, negative x squared, and then since this is a positive, I'm going to put plus 2x, and then I'm left with this minus 1 over here. And now this is now rearranged. This is rearranged. Okay, now this is in standard form, and of course, it's okay to have a negative, and there you go. All right, I'm going to go ahead and go back to number 4 because I need to describe if the parabola is going to go up. So remember, looking at our rule here, if a is greater than 0, it's going to face up. So this is we're going to say face up over here. This is going to face up. And then number 5, looking at this answer, we have a negative coefficient. So that means we're going to have the function facing down. Face down. So it's going to look like this, and it's going to look like that. Okay, let's go ahead and move on. All right, so it says solve the following equations by graphing. And something that we need to know is this whole idea of a vortex. It means that it has the lowest or highest point on the curve. So let's go take a look at our examples here. The butt of the quadratic function or the parabola is this. This is the lowest point, and this is what we call the vertex. This is the highest point that it can go, and we also call that the vertex. It's the booty, I guess you can say. This right here is also the vertex. So again, it's the lowest or the highest point of the function, and it depends on the function. So what I want to do is figure out, so my first step is to figure out, let's write our steps. Our first step is to figure out the vertex, and then figure out what numbers I need to put before the vertex and also after the vertex. So, number 1, find the vertex. 2, input x values up and down. And then 3, you can use a calculator or calculate by hand to find y values. And then the 4th one is graph. Okay, I hope these steps, I thought of these steps just now, so hopefully that this will be useful when we're doing these problems. Okay, let's take a look at number 6. It has x squared plus 2x is equal to 3. Some things to note is to make sure that, I think we need to include this somewhere in our steps, but we need to make sure that everything is in standard form. And we can see that number 6 is not in standard form, so that means I need to get rid of this 3. So I need to subtract both sides by 3, and I'm left with x squared plus 2x minus 3 equals 0. And then I can go ahead and figure out my vertex. So how do I know what b and a are? So remember, it's in the form ax squared plus bx plus c. These should be talking about coefficients. So what is my a? My coefficient of this function, or this expression really, is 1. And then our b is what? What's the coefficient? What's the second term? Well, it has a 2, so we're going to put 2 here. Now, going to use my formula, x is equal to negative b over 2a. I'm going to put negative, and then what's b? b is 2 all over 2 times what? 1. Okay? So I'm left with what? Negative 2 up top, and then 2 times 1 is just 2, and then negative 2 divided by 2 is just negative 1. So that means my x is equal to negative 1, and I put that right in the middle. Okay? So how do we count up and down? Hopefully this makes sense when I wrote these, and hopefully that makes sense what I mean by counting up and down. So I just need to subtract by 1 when I'm going here, and then I need to add 1 when I'm going up here. So negative 1 minus 1, that's going to be negative 2, negative 3, and then over here, if I'm going this way, it's going to be 0 and 1, okay? All right, let's figure out our y values. I'm going to use my calculator. I think this is helpful, and I think I've already... No, let's just do it again. So what I want to do, let me just quit everything, is I want to go ahead and press the y equals button. The y equals button is in the top left corner, so press that. And then what you're going to do is you're going to type in the equation. So it has to be in standard form. Make sure that's in standard form. It's x squared, so find the x button. So it's going to be x caret sign 2. Right, and then press that right arrow key because you don't want to have everything in the exponent side of things. And we're going to write plus 2x minus 3. And then I'm going to go ahead and just type in, or not type in, press second, and then graph, and it should give you a table. So now I'm going to go ahead and figure out where my x values are and where negative 1 is. So negative 1 is all the way up here. Okay, it says negative 1, if I scroll down with my arrow key, negative 1, if x is equal to negative 1, then it's going to be negative 4. And then 0, that's just going to be negative 3, and then 1 is just 0. So I'm going to go back up, negative 2 is negative 3, and then negative 3 is just 0, okay? So then, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and plot everything here. All right, let's see. So I like to start off with my vertex because why not? Negative 1 is right here. So negative 1 comma negative 4, I put that there. And then 0 comma negative 3 is, let's see, 0 comma negative 3 is right there. And then 1 comma 0 is right here. And then negative 2 comma negative 3 right there. And then lastly, I am left with negative 3 comma 0, which is right there. Okay, hopefully that this is good. Yes, it does. Because what we really want to see is that, well, if we draw a line like this, a dashed line, we can see that it's symmetric, right? So that's exactly what we want to have. It's kind of like it's you have these, but it's just flipped to the other side of the symmetric line. So that's exactly what I want to do. And then when you're satisfied with those points, go ahead and just connect them, and then just like this, go ahead and connect them, and just use these arrows to indicate that they're going to go up to infinity. Okay, and then we are done. Alrighty, let's do number 7. Hopefully this is really, really easy to do. We have x squared minus a at x is equal to negative 16. Is this in standard form? I'm really sorry. I think this is way too big. I need to, shrink that a little bit. But, I want to have some little pictures here and there just to have some, make the notes a little bit more fun. But, really it's not. But it's okay. X squared minus 8x is equal to negative 16. It is not in standard form, so I need to add, everything. I'm sorry, both sides by 16, so I'm left with x squared minus 8x plus 16. And I need to determine my vertex. And how do we do that? Well, first I need to make sure I figure out what my a and b are. And my a is 1 and b is negative 8, right? Talking about the coefficients and the number in front of the variable. So there's a 1 here. That's how I got the 1. And then the b, right, this is bx. Do not neglect the negative sign. So that's a negative 8x, or a negative 8 over here. So writing my vertex, v is equal to negative b over 2a. My negative b is what? Negative times negative 8. Divided by 2 times what? Well, it's 1. So I put 1 here. And then, multiplying everything, top and bottom, negative times a negative is a positive. Divided by 2. And 8 divided by 2 is what? 4. So x is equal to 4. And where do I put that? I put that in the middle. So put that in the middle there. X is equal to 4. And I'm going to start counting down and start counting up. So 4, 3, 2. And then I put 5, 6 over here. Okay. Again, this right here is the lowest point. That's the vertex. I like to start off with the vertex. So I need to go find, I'm going to use my calculator. And then figure out where, I can't figure out where it is because I need to clear this out. Go back to y equals and then write x squared minus 8x plus 16. And then I press second graph, and then I'm going to figure out where 4 is, and that's where it makes it a little easy. So 4 is right here, so I put 0. And then 3, 1, 2, 4, and then go all the way down. 5, 1, 6, 4, and that looks very, very symmetrical, right? You want to make sure that you have your vertex here, and then, kind of like what we did over here. This is our vertex. There's a negative 3 and negative 3, on the other side of negative 4, and then same thing with the zeros there. Okay. Starting off with the vertex, it's 4, 0. 4, 0 is right here. So I'm going to use a different color. 4, 0 is right there. 3, 1, 2, 4, and then 5, 1, and then 6, 4. And I think this is good enough, so I'm going to go ahead and just connect those points. Okay, and then use those arrows to indicate that it's going up to infinity. Okay? And there we go. So these are our vertex, and it's symmetrical, right? That's what you want. Looks like they're reflecting exactly what we want there. Okay, this one, we have negative x squared is equal to 2x plus 4. I'm going to go a little faster. So I'm left with, okay, so I need to subtract both sides by 2x. So I have negative x squared minus 2x. Got to subtract both sides by 4. So there you go. And this is A, B, and C. A is -1. B is -2. So I'm going to figure out with my vertex. Or I'm sorry, I'm going to figure out what my vertex is. So that's just going to be, so this is negative times a negative, that's just -2 divided by -2, so x is equal to 1. So I put a 1 here. I'm just going to count up and down, so this is going to be 0, -1, 2, and 3. And let's use my calculator again. So I go second quit, y equals, let's put negative x, oops, that's not what I want, negative x squared minus 2x minus 4, and then press second graph, go all the way up, and 1 is right here. And hopefully I'm not making a mistake. I'm going to check. I need to check and see if I didn't make a mistake, because that's not what you want to do. So that's going to be negative times -2, and then 2 times -1. Okay, so that's weird. This should be positive, and this should be x is equal to -1. So I should put a -1 here. So -1, -2, -3, 0, and 1. There you go. And yep, that looks good, because we want to make sure this is our vertex, and we have a -4 here and a -4 there. Okay, so let's put a -3, -4, -7, and then 0, -4, -7. Okay. Let's go ahead and plot everything. So -1 comma -3 is right here. And -2 comma -4 is right here. And then -3 comma -7 is right there. And 0 comma -4 and 1 comma -7. I'm pretty satisfied with these points. And that's our answer. Okay. Again, this is our vertex. That's the highest point, right? And in this case, this is the lowest point. The vertex is our lowest point because it's facing up. And since it's facing down, the vertex is our highest point. Okay? And how do we know that this is facing down? Well, it's because our coefficient, our leading coefficient of this expression is a negative, therefore it's facing down just like so. Okay? So there you have it. Let's do some more practice. It says find the zeros of the function. Again, it's just where the line crosses the x-axis. And that's just y-intercept. So we see number 1, here's where the line crosses the x-axis. It's at x is equal to -1, x is equal to 0, and x is equal to 2. There you go. And here we take a look at number 2. Crosses here and here, so it's x equals -3 and x is equal to 1. Those are our answers. Says use a calculator to approximate the zeros of each function to the nearest tenths. And here's our steps. So we know what the y equals button, and you know how do you press enter, or I'm sorry, you press the y equals, you enter the function into the y equals, press the graph, and then there's some more stuff that we can walk through. And I don't know if my TI-84 or the app can do this, but we can try to do one problem together. So let me clear that. So our function is x squared minus 5x plus 3. Our second step is, or not second, our third step was press graph. And then I'm going to go ahead and press second. And then where's the calc button? It's actually, you just press trace. And then what you want to do is you want to go and click on 0. So you scroll down, you press the down arrow button just once, hit enter because you want to find the 0. And then it's going to ask you for the left bound. So we're going to, let's see if it allows me to do this. Oh, interesting. It doesn't show you. Oh, there it is. You can see that little weird, it's moving. You can see that. So get that close. So we're going to find, we're going to go, towards the x-axis. We're not going to go directly at the x-axis. We're just going to go to the left side. I guess you can say this is the left side of the point on the x-axis, which is right here-ish. So right here is the left side. So if you just tilt your head and you're looking at the x-axis, yeah, it's the left side of the x-axis over here. And this is what you call the right side of the x-axis. So this is the left bound. You're going to press enter. And then you're going to go and move to the right bound. And you're going to press enter again. And then the zeros, it says x is equal to 0.69722. We're going to round to the nearest tenth. So the nearest tenth is, so the 6 is in the 10th decimal place. And we're going to round to it. So 9 is above, whatchamacallit, like above 4 or something. So that means we're going to make that 6 change to a 7. So this is going to be x is equal to 0.7 there. Okay? And then you're going to do it again. So we need to figure out this particular point on this x-axis. So we're going to go ahead and go second trace, press 0, and then here's our left bound, and then you go to the right bound, and then it's at x is equal to 4.3. Okay, so then these are our x values, and I'll let you do this on your own. Okay, that's an exercise. So hopefully that we all understand how to do this. We're solving quadratics by graphing. Multiple methods of solving quadratics, and there's plenty more of that coming in your way. So hopefully you enjoyed that.